All right, Jinx, we're back for full spoilers for The Darkness That Comes Before through part four. And we're going to be getting in the weeds because this was by far my favorite section so far.
Yeah.
This had everything that I've been loving out of this book, except maybe some sorcery. You
Yeah.
know, I, I do love me some sorcery, but whatever the Dunyanes are up to is enough mysterious skill to get me by anyway.
To pique
So
your
I
interest.
was satisfied. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I like this section a lot. Um Especially the as we will get into it, the mental battle of Naor. And we see both sides, both perspectives, even another character's perspective that will come during my chapter 13. Um and we see three different POVs of just the scenario. So one from one aggressor, one from like the penetrator from from Kellis's perspective, and then a third party that is a neutral. Well, I don't say kind of not neutral anymore, but um, technically a neutral that's seeing it from not even sort of a distance. So it is a very very interesting section, in my opinion, of the book. Still, Harlot's still my favorite, but this one is very much a close second. I think. I can't
Yeah.
remember what happened in part five, but yeah.
Well, I guess we'll find out. I'm excited for part five, especially if things start coming together,
Hmm.
which I think they will be. But like you said, we start off with Noir, and I'm not going to lie, thus far, probably been the POV I've been least interested in. I did like the battle sequence back in, I think it was part two, coming
Hmm.
from his POV, but other than that, I don't like the guy. So
No, yeah, I don't blame you.
I like him a lot less after this section,
Yeah.
and we'll get into all that.
I mean, he claims he's the most violent of men, so.
Well, we see him in a more solemn place, I guess, to start off.
Uh,
I believe he's at his dad's burial grounds to start off, or
yeah,
um,
I think it's his ancestral like burial grounds, like call it the Barrow or something like that.
gotcha. And we run into a familiar face over there. Um, Kellis is knocked out on the ground, and he takes him back as a prisoner. So we're already aware, or essentially traded his father's life for Kellis's dad's freedom. We get a little more insight into that through reflections, where it turns out things didn't really bode so well for that relationship. Um, or came to see his father as a manipulator, as the Dunyanes seem to be on several levels.
To say the least.
And yeah, long story short, he's been driven off. I don't have all the key details there necessarily. I was gonna lead on you to parse out what was particularly essential about that backstory.
Mm.
But point is now, he's got Kellis in chains, hasn't spoken to him, though Kellis has been speaking to his wives. And Kellis, being who Kellis is teasing out information he can out of them, particularly Nora's first and most beloved wife. Um, he's easily able to parse out the language.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, eventually Kellis goes in to speak with him, pondering, dare he use or rather, dare he use the son to find the father?
Uh huh.
And let's be real. As soon as we saw him ask that question for the first time, we know what decision he was going to make,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It was obvious. Too tantalizing.
So exactly. So that's what he does. He lets this guy free, and they start off on a little venture through the steppe. And yeah, there are a few things I wanted to unpack here. Um, Let me be clear that Noir certainly is mistrusting of Kellis, knowing the nature of his father, and is basically anticipating being manipulated.
Hmm.
We can debate throughout the rest of the part how well, he was able to resist this, if Kellis is still using it. Kellis has had a bit of trouble trying to bend this guy's mind as, maybe not so easily compared to someone else we run into later.
Yeah, somebody that doesn't know the Dunyane's nature.
Right, exactly. But yeah, Kellis is basically a mind reader, is what we're piecing together here. Um,
Very, very much so. Yep.
yeah, heading back to the prologue in our first episode, we discussed how um, the whole relationship and uh, that Kellis sees between people's experiences and their consciousness and where their thoughts arise,
Mm-hmm.
the darkness that comes before, and um, yeah, in doing so, while he sort of bends his, tries to bend a conversation to his will, picking up on like every distinct little mannerism of someone to try to read their minds, etc. Um, in a sociopathic way, he'll spill out some truths on his own. Um, like what was it? It was something he said, or maybe I've got that down for the next chapter. But what was it? Oh yeah, openly admitting that he didn't love, things like that.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, this had me very, very intrigued. I figured it was around now that we'd get some Kellis again. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Because we moved the plot forward mostly with one side, so we got to move the plot forward with another side. So, yeah,
and just something I was thinking about here. I'm still trying to pin down who Mathanet is, and allegedly Kellis's father is out in this sacred land that the Holy War is trying to reconquer, etc. Um, I almost had an inkling that there's a possibility that Mathanet could be how do you pronounce his dad's name? Moingus?
Moangus,
Moingus?
yeah, Moangus.
Yeah, that was a thought of mine for a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you're familiar with Foundation. Um,
No, I've heard of the show, but I never watched the show.
yeah, well, there's the show and then there's the books. It all kind of, without giving anything away, hinges on this idea of psychohistory, which is basically just like a form of sociology they use to run simulations to predict the future and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But that's an imperfect science for them because humans are essentially agents that can turn the course of history at. Hold on. Also, just a quick mic check. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. Just checking. Um, but yeah, essentially, a human can get in the way of all that, bend the course of history and things like that. But I feel like if they were equipped with a couple Kellises, that might not
Oh,
be a problem for trying to steer the events of the future.
yeah. One Kellis, it would be enough to take over this planet easily, easily,
Well,
and
we'll
that
see what that
scares me.
means going forward.
That scares me. Um, Yeah, this chapter was interesting. I'm not sure if it was this chapter or was it my chapter. No, it was my chapter that I kind of wanted to piece to you about mostly, or I
I mean,
wanted
we could
you to
bridge
bring.
into 13. They
Yeah,
all kind of blend together if you
yeah,
like.
they all do blend together. I can't quite keep track. I had to before this episode. I was going back and saying, okay, what individually is like my part that I'm supposed to summarize for chapter 13? Because I'm like 11, 12, and 13 kind of like felt like one chapter, but there was like a
Yeah, right.
clear difference from chapter 13 and 14. But like 11 or 12 and 13 just felt so much like just one chapter that I just kind of
Yeah,
forgot.
I
So I had
mean,
to look.
they're so big, you got to break them up, I
Hmm.
guess, in this sort of way. But I almost feel like, maybe it could have been a more natural flow if when they embark on their adventure, that's when we move into chapter 13. But I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. So, is there anything that you have like questions about for chapter 12? You said you wanted me to clarify certain thing. I think,
Well,
right?
I guess specifically, when I was thinking back to his relationship with Mungus and how all that went down, if there was anything in particular that I should be tracking there. Um,
Okay. So let
I mean,
me.
obviously, I felt the influence on, how that leads him to um, interact with Kellis and just his perception of the Dunyanes in general. But
Yeah. Let me kind of give you the rundown quickly with Moangus and Naor. So, ironically, in chapter 12, it did mention that Moangus, I think or I think Naor met Moangus for the first time at that very place. I'm pretty sure he mentioned something up around that line. It's like in this area. So yeah, as we know, one of the former Naor's former his father and the former chief of the Utamant, one of his men brought in a uh, slave or a prisoner that was traveling with Shrink. Again, uh, just quick recap: the Shrink are basically like goblins.
Yeah.
Um, even though,
Yeah, we saw them in the prologue.
yeah, we saw them in the prologue. Even though they're not goblins, don't be mad at us for saying that, but they basically are. I don't really care. I'm not gonna comment anyways. Anyways, um, the so when he first brought him, he didn't know anything. He was given to his mowing or to Naor's mother as a prize. Um, Eventually, of course, being a Dunyang was able to learn the language and manipulate his mom, and he used his mom to kind of bridge a connection to Nayor because Nayor had some influence. He was a male, so that means he was young, he was malleable, he was able to influence him to make uh make some real changes. So that's why when he was asking him like it's like what I think Moe's asked. I think it was in chapter 12. It's asked like, "What do you want?" And Moe's lied and said he wanted to be chieftain, even though really what he wanted was him. Um, as you kind of, I hope you know that now that Moe's is at least uh, bisexual. I think at this point, maybe gay, but I'm not entirely
Hmm.
sure. Um, but that's why it's frowned upon in their clan homosexuality. I'm guessing. So it's about so definitely some homophobia there. Um, so eventually he granted him his wish. He was able to use some of the philosophies, and which will comes back into chapter 13, um, to kind of change his perspective on customs of the Skilvendi ways. They have to talk about the steppe and being since the Skilvendi are mostly nomadic people, and then talk about trackless steppes. So they go wherever they want. They're supposed to be free spirited people,
Hmm.
pillaging
Hmm.
and traveling and doing whatever they want pretty much, but they have a set of rules which is counterintuitive to their their tradition. So it's like it's contradictory. So that's why Moegas was able to use that to kind of manipulate him and said, look at your inconsistencies between what your people preach and what you guys talk about you follow. So there's some conflict in I don't want to say conflict of interest. What's the term? There's some conflicting in their own culture, and that kind of opened his eyes, and that kind of played into his own ego. Say, okay, I'm someone that can understand, and of course, Moenges and Aldunya are able to manipulate people and to stroke people's egos. The more malleable like Nayor is, the more easier it is to be able to manipulate. Um, in the end, Naor or Callus challenged his father, as we saw in part I think 2. Challenged Naor's father to a 1v1, and it was you got I mean Moegas it was easily able to overcome Naor's father,
Yeah, yeah, that was
and
part two.
yeah, that was part 2, and then eventually Naor or Moangus left on his own accord. So he painted his hair, as he said, as he was talking with Callus in chapter 13. And he was able to travel across and was able to escape the escape that area, the plains that they were in, um, back to like, I guess there he was going to Phanom, so or wherever he was going to, but uh, we know that supposedly we know that he's in country in the Phanom country, Kian. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's the country. His name Kian. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of the relationship, and then eventually we know that in chapter 13 that um, Naor kind of realized it over time that he was manipulated and he felt embarrassed. Everyone made fun of him, but everyone else knew they was getting manipulated, but not they didn't know how to what extent and how he was being manipulated. But they knew he was being manipulated in a way to overcome his father and stuff like that. So it's a I feel like it's just embarrassment that my eyes, how I see it, is that Naor loved him romantically, didn't know really how to express it, or he didn't really understand it, and he was basically thrown away like a tool, like a
Okay.
slave. So it's like they you know how the Scovendi prize themselves of being like dominant people, holding showing
They
like
into their own ways and things like that.
not only standing their own ways is like being able to manage people. I want to say manage people, like totally as dominate is the strong word, is the basic word. Dominate over other people and enslave others, and in that way he was enslaved. He was taken his, I guess you would say, to his manhood was taken away, um, and that
Hmm.
was embarrassing. And he just can't come to terms with that. So that's how I interpret it, at least.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I appreciate the clarity. I would say that was the general. I just wasn't particularly sure if I had missed any key details about, you know, post him slaying Naor's dad. Um, if there's anything in particular I had to be keeping track of that wasn't instantly came to mind.
No, I don't think so. I just know, I mean, just from the book, he just left. Seemed to kind of leave after a certain time. It didn't specify like when. It seemed like New York took the mantle, and then after a few weeks or certain days, Moenga said, "All right, I'll see you later," and just left.
Yeah, okay. Sounds
Um,
about right. Well, he left, presumably taking a similar route that our heroes are taking up now.
yeah,
And that leads us into chapter
chapter
13.
13. Yeah, sorry about that diatribe. Not even diatribe, just ramble.
Oh, well,
Um,
no, upon my request.
yeah. So chapter 13, the Hethethi Mountains. So we start off with Naor and Kellis coming up as they're starting their travels together. They come across some other Skilvendi to do their um, yearly pilgrimage to the Nansor Empire, basically to pillage and rape villages and stuff. There's yearly worship, the standard yearly worship stuff.
As they
Um,
do.
yeah, as they do. And so usually they don't attack people that are doing other tribes from other Sclavonian tribes don't attack people that are traveling to that area. So he was able to meet some people, try to get some information, and that's pretty much how it started off. He came across a village and that was abandoned. And then they run into another Scavendi tribe called the Master with an M. Let me flip into the page. I found it. Okay, the name of the tribe was the Menuati.
And this was another action sequence that I very much enjoyed.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so basically, Naor and Kellis walk up and or ride up on their horses, trying to exchange information, and basically, Naor was, or the person that was running that tribe, a small band of tribe for that tribe, pretty much insulted Naor, and Naor just didn't even talk. He just straight went into action. Uh, a lot of it was a big action sequence. I'm not going to go into detail. Basically, they are fought like few people, and then Callus was just easily was able to overcome his enemies with very minimal effort, and it was pretty impressive to say the least. Um,
Hmm.
we get to see. I hope we get to see more battle sequence from Callus because I kind of don't remember if there's any like future battle sequence with Callus, but
In this book or in general?
just in general, I can't remember, but I hope there is more. Because I mean, every time we span to him, it's always, oh, yep, the fight's over. For him, it's just like we're always in Nair's perspective or someone else's perspective. You look over and you're like, yep, just bodies riddled on the ground.
Yeah,
So
we haven't. I feel like I want to be in Kellis's head. No, I mean, specifically, like it doesn't have to be an action sequence, but I would love to see him. Or well, I feel like we might have seen him. I really want to be in his head when he is uncomfortable. That's what I don't think we've gotten enough of yet.
yes, I do too. Um, so yeah, so after the battle, Callus and Naor walk on over up the hill. Obviously, killed the next band, next little bit of riders there, and they see some slave women. So the Menuati tribe apparently just came from their pillaging of the some village in the Dancer Empire. And that people were the House of Ganuam, I think Ganuam or something like that. And that had one of our new characters, a new perspective, Serwa. And she is obviously a person from the Dancer Empire, although not specifically from that place that where the House of Ganuan were from. Um, and we get a little bit of perspective, her perspective in this chapter of her history. So basically, she was, yeah, obviously, is very, very, very pretty. Um, I had a brother, older brother, and a mother and a father. Lived comfortably, had a nice house. And then her father sold her off to slavery, or to work in the house of Ganem. Again, I'm pronouncing that name wrong. It's something with a G. It's like Gan or something. Uh, can't remember the name. Anyways, um, he went to go see them. Or she was sent over to that house to be served as a pretty much a prostitute. Um, she was treated
Called her a
horribly.
concubine. I thought that
Concubine.
was a little generous with how she was being treated.
Yeah, yeah, concubine, pretty much. Yeah. Uh, and she was treated horribly, very much bad. Um, not very verbose when it comes to my word choices, but it's just bad.
I think that
Uh,
sums it up.
her she had one of her customers was the son of the head of the house, and she took a seed, was pregnant, tried to have her baby, and then the other women of the other concubines of the house were so jealous that they strangled the baby, and that's where she gets
What
the
they call them again? The
blue
babies with the
babies.
blue heads, blue
Yeah, the
babies. That's what
yeah,
it was.
blue babies. So she's always been she's been fearful of that situation. Um, and eventually, come down the line, that village was attacked by Manuati, and they were taken to slaves, along with the other concubines. Naor freed everyone, and he said, "You're on your own." Basically, I'm keeping Serwa as my prize because she's hot, and we'll be on our way. And one of them tried to follow, and Naor killed her. So, um, and I think that was the kind of the main gist of that part, and then we kind of get to the Ganem. That was the tribe name or the house of Ganem. Yeah, Ganem or whatever. Anyways, so they traveled a bit, getting towards the mountains, and they realized Naor said, "All right, this is not working. We gotta find another way." Because he was afraid that he was ready to kill Kellis or to be killed by Kellis because he was afraid he was gonna get killed. So he said, "Might as well just battle it out or part ways here," because he was ready to get killed. Um, Kellis, pretty much him and Naor and Kellis had pretty much an altercation, and this is like kind of where like the perspective of like kind of the philosophy was able to break down the psychology, break down Naor's like trauma, and was able to manipulate and use it to kind of get through. Because I know in chapter I think it was chapter 12, he was saying he doesn't trust me. It's like in order to win his soul, Kellis was determined, well, he's never gonna love me, but I know I can get him. I can build his trust, and by trusting his doubts on me, and he can manipulate him through that way. And so he kind of reinforced that with trying to attack him. They battle it out, and obviously Kellis won pretty convincingly. Although he did get his fair shares of some hits in Naor, but it was really no match for Adunyain. Um, and he's like, "All right, I still need you. This is proof that I still need you." Which Kellis wasn't really lying to be say. He was trying to manipulate him, but he wasn't really lying in that case because he's like, he knows war, and I need to know war in order to um, take over the this holy war to as his instrument or something, or um, take over this control to get to his father. And yeah, they agreed, and eventually Kelly obviously Kelly's let him live, and they walked to saw where those heads are on the spikes, and they said, "All right, Momum's this way, let's go." And that was the end of chapter 13.
So, another instance in which I liked being in this person's head feels like a bit of an ironic word choice because, I mean, I found it very interesting, especially just getting a completely different sort of on multiple levels. First of all, getting an outsider on the dynamic between Naor and Kellis. Someone who, on the other hand, while Naor is just off the bat super skeptical of Kellis and their conversations are evolving as such, would not say the same about Serwi, who instantly falls for him.
Yeah, it was easily manipulation. That was literally light work for him.
Exactly. So that juxtaposition I thought was quite interesting. Um, in some ways, a worse life than Esmondette. It's hard to say. I don't think we have to pin them up against each other, but very, very horrible
Yeah.
in its own special way. Um, and she is just grasping on for any kind of comfort she can get in this situation.
Hmm.
Um, Nayor, he at least he's not hiding anything. He is probably some of the most brutal sexual assault that I've had to read.
Yeah.
Um, and
Ooh, this
um,
guy.
yeah, I guess what was really standing out to me with regards to that is, she becomes pregnant fairly quickly,
Yes.
and um, I guess as a coping mechanism, she is instantly, assigning Kellis to be the father, even
Yeah,
though they have
she's
not lain
adamant about
together.
that. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I have no words, which is unfortunate considering my job as a co-host is to have words about this. But um,
It's
yeah,
it's 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 one of those moments where you're like so horrified that you can't look away.
I think
Um,
that is the perfect way of describing it.
you're
Um,
like, well, like,
but
what
as
am
an
I supposed to
outsider,
say?
not having to live through this situation myself, I cannot deny that I'm just very, very intrigued as to how Kellis treats people and um, how he gets his manipulative ways at this chapter or the next, where he is literally like she doesn't even have to say the words. He
Yeah,
just
yeah, he
knows
just
exactly what she is going to say.
mind reading type stuff, and she didn't realize it until like after like caught up to Naor, and he just like, I didn't say anything. He just knew, and this was the first time. Well, actually, you know what? I'm not gonna say it, but note this for chapter 14. It was the first time we see something. And I kind of always wanted to know why. When was the first instance of this? And is this actually something that uh, is real or not? I will explain later on. I think in the third book, you'll know what I mean when I explain it in the third book.
Well, give me more Dunyan manipulation, as long as I'm looking from a bird's eye view, because um, it's intriguing to follow, to say the least.
Yeah,
And I
from the.
guess that brings us into chapter 14.
Mhm.
Or actually, well, you know what? I did have one more thing written down, just a 6-word quote that I think just speaks to everything we just discussed. Or she thinks to herself, she was surly, she was nothing.
Yeah, and in the end, and for Tequila, she is kind of not. I'm gonna say nothing. She's just a means to end. She's as equivalent as a tree or a bird flying through the sky. It is a means to an end, a way to navigate. Use her as a tool to navigate through the world and whatever needs be to get to to his goal, the shortest path.
And for Naor too, I mean, I believe it's Survey who picks it up that he doesn't want to be traveling alone with Kellis. I don't think either of them really want to be traveling alone.
Mm,
An assassination attempt could come at any minute.
yeah.
So
So it's yeah, it's kind of crazy. I was gonna say something, but I already forgot. Oh, the I think it was this chapter. Yeah, it was this chapter that we get to see Kellis's perspective on how he was reading Naor, like be like the muscles in his face
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the
All the
heartbeat.
mannerisms.
Yeah, and that's how he reads people. And yeah, we will go more into that eventually, but that was an interesting first instance of it, a nice little taste.
I'm sure. Well, we're in forbidden territory now. So in chapter 14, when our characters, I'll avoid using the word heroes again, um, encounter a boy, especially after Surway gives them away with a yelp, they have no choice but to pursue him and keep him shut up. So Surway's abandoned, sends her into a bit of a panic. Um, and when they're not coming back, she thinks she's killed them. Um, but she runs into some guy in the woods. Uh, Nayor comes in for, I suppose we could call the rescue. It's Surway who kills the guy, and she's marked for that kill with the knife. And um, yeah, I mean, they keep moving on from there. They reunite it now. Another thing, and just another instance of coping, is when once the band is back together, it's obviously implied that Kellis killed this kid.
Yeah,
And um, Serway basically justifies this for herself.
saying yeah,
Kellis can do no wrong in her eyes. No wrong.
yes, no
And
wrong at all.
I was gonna say actually earlier as well, um, what's crazy here is, and this is a fault to Kellis to be clear, but he's giving her a sense of safety that she's just never had. Obviously, it's false and
Mm,
it's a means to an end. But forget all the mind reading and manipulation. Uh, that on its own might just do the trick because of what she's had to, go through, and it's providing a sense of false comfort that's just making all of this, unfortunately, just far too easy to work out in her mind.
yeah, easily.
So, um, yeah, eventually they've got some pursuers again. In the end, they run into a camp who's at least willing to talk to them, and that's where we leave off. The Knights of Atrempus. Have we run into the Knights of Atrempus before? Because I know we worked with some knights. The name Atrempus, is um that isn't the band that we know now to be the console, is it? Or am I slipping up?
No, that's not the council. Knights of Olympus. Uh, that was Sergades. I think that was. I think was the guy. Um, let me look. I gotta open up my book. Ooh.
Big time.
Uh, yeah. The Men of the Tusk. So they got into the Great Ordeal. I mean, they got into the I mean, Jesus, they got into the Holy War. So the Men of the Tusk, the Holy War. So they're, I think, close to the camp. That's that's um that's where the people of Knights of the Trumpet. I think I'm not entirely sure. I This is actually genuinely me not knowing. They could be some people that were what are the knights called? What was the knights that which was what's the old
That's what
boy's
I'm
name?
saying, man. These names, they slip me.
Yeah, it's not, I don't think they're Knights of the Trumpets. I was thinking of um um Esmanet's current host. What his
Yeah,
name?
that's what I mean, right? And
Quick
that's
Google
what I was
search.
referring to.
I can look it up.
Um, yeah,
We're cutting this part, by the way.
yeah, yeah, of course. Don't you worry. Yeah, this episode we'll definitely, rearranging and things of that sort.
Hmm. I'm not finding it. I
Okay,
see it.
that's fine. That's fine.
Beatrice, but that's a city.
Hmm.
Um, but
Well, regardless, it's decision time now. Kellis has been pondering what's his guy's going to be here, and in terms of what's next for our characters, is Serway going to pose as his beautiful wife as he serves as some sort of role of authority when he comes into the Holy War. Uh, we know he's using this Holy War at his own means,
yeah,
but
that's the plan.
I need to piece out. I feel like Akka right now, drawing his map. I want Kellis and Mathanet's relationship to, yeah, I want to see what's going on there. This
Hmm.
idea of Mathanet being Mungus, it wouldn't check out with the fact that um, Kellis is being drawn by his father, who he's looking to kill. By the way, I'm not sure if we directly mentioned that,
Well, at
but that's
least
that's what he's telling.
when they are. Yeah,
That's what he's telling Naor. Who knows what
yeah,
his actual intentions are?
yeah.
Because we know he has no problem throwing out blanket truths every once in a while. We also know he has no problem with lying.
Hmm.
So um, I'd have to go back to the prologue and see if I could really piece out his intentions there directly, because that wasn't something we were really it was on our radar previously. Um, but yeah, either way, I mean, I guess where we're ending up and how I'm excited about it is my main takeaway from chapter 14. Um, I I now feel remiss in the depth to which I went over the chapter based on I feel like you covered more ground going over 13 than I did with 12 and 14, but
Well, it's just
I think
because,
we got the
yeah,
substance.
yeah. I mean, the only thing you really missed was that they were being chased by the Coyote.
Oh yeah, I breezed over that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then they eventually were saved by the Knights of Atropos, and we'll see where they go from there. So that.
Yeah, man.
Uh,
This last part. I would imagine it won't be so much as I feel like it'll be a climax in the sense of things coming together. But I think in general, where I'm at with how I'm seeing the book right now, I really don't want to call it a prologue because there was so much substance here.
yeah.
To be honest, I'm glad it's paced this way because, as you were seeing, and I guess really part two and even some of part three took me a while to sort of get my grounds here.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm feeling comfortable now, excited about what's happening next. Um, but yeah, I don't mind a book paced like this, especially when there's just so much to unpack in every single line, every paragraph. I'm not in a rush, but next book, man. Next book.
Next book's my
Uh,
favorite out of the three.
sounds
It's
good.
it's for me. It's 2, 2, 1, 3
Right.
for the first trilogy, and we
And I
got
guess it's also something else that we should call out is um, the importance of Kellis just by little details just comes more and more to light as I think it's Naor who refers to him as the Prince of Nothing.
yeah.
That's
That's
his
why I was
guys.
literally about to say that. I said, "Hey, we got the title of the series."
Exactly. So, that's going to be his guys. And I guess we'll see what happens with it.
In a
So,
way, he is a prince of nothing, right?
quite
Uh,
literally, quite
quite
literally.
literally, old descendant of a old kingdom, and that old kingdom's pretty much gone. So he is a prince of nothing. Accurate,
Well, we've got an SRM left, a very capable one.
very
One
capable.
I would not really prefer to personally meet,
I would
but
never want. I thought about that. I was like, would I ever want to meet this guy? I said, absolutely not. I don't even want to meet him, be a cursory with anyone that I've met. I'm
I'd
like,
feel pretty
absolutely,
honored to meet Kellis, though. He wants to use me for something. But I guess that's the wrong mentality.
yeah.
But yeah.
I was
Sorry. Had to cut a little blip there as we started talking a Song of Ice and Fire, which we're not doing here just yet. Uh,
Yeah.
but you know what else we are talking about very soon that I'm quite excited for is part five. And closing off the darkness that comes before, I'll come prepped with a review of the book, talking about strengths and weaknesses. I feel like you've probably gathered my thoughts, but I'll get them in a little cohesive package at the end here. Um, but overall, I'm leaning incredibly positive on it. Um, and
Yeah.
a lot of that is hinging on what I'm expecting to come next. But I have really just enjoyed my time with this, and you've been a great companion. So,
Yeah, appreciate it. I like being here. I like hearing what other people think, especially if they're going through it. It's like living vicariously through others. So I remember going through it the first time, and I'm like, you get way more out of the book than I did going through because I was just doing audiobook and just kind of as I was going about my day, I missed so many facts. Now that I'm actually sitting down and actually reading it and knowing how things work, um, I'm able to absorb so much with actual eyes to page. At least for me, in my opinion. Um, I mean, I enjoy this book a lot. I think this book is basically a setup book. I think this whole first three books are really setup books, even though the books two and three are less of a like setup, but I think they're a real setup for the main stuff that is in the second series, the second apocalypse. And I'm looking forward to seeing you go through this book two and three, and hopefully, if you're down for it, go to the next one.
yeah, man, can't wait. All right. Guess we can call it here for now.
Okay, see y'all.